Alright, this is the my long version for the two cool graves next to each other. Mainly I was here going to come by and do a video for Abraham Baldwin, one of the true and founding fathers. He was actually a member of the Confederate Congress when we drew up the Articles of Confederation, and then he went to the Continental Congress. And there's a rough draft of the Constitution of him, crossing things out and making corrections and everything like that. So it's pretty fascinating. And so I came out. He was I guess he was born in 1754 in Connecticut when it was still a British colony. We're still a colony in D.C. Whoops, sorry. I digress. But anyways, he was born in 1754 as a British colony, and he joined the Revolution zealously. And like I said, went to the Constitutional Convention, helped draft the Constitution. He was there when they were arguing about, should small states have equal representation as the big states and whatnot. So they had to, do a lot of compromises. Some of them were unacceptable by today's standards, of course, but of course this led to the our bicameral Congress, where we have equal senators. Everybody gets 2 senators, but the U.S. House of Representatives, how many people, your population dictates how many representatives you have. And of course the North wanted to start getting rid of slavery, and it was already writing it out. So unfortunately, they also said, well, we'll kick the can down the road for 20 years about slavery. There'll be 3/5 of a person, and the Southerners were appeased for a while. That kind of course, exploded in 1861. It was a dumb compromise. And but overall, of course, it's a good document. Read it. It's where we eventually corrected ourselves and whatnot. The system corrected itself, so we got to give it that. And so Abraham, some people didn't sign the U.S. Constitution. They walked away from it. Some signed. He was one of the 2 Georgia representatives to remain at there and be there at the signing. And because remember, if you ever read the Federalist Papers, which I have, I hope you all have, there was a great debate for a while. There was actually a tour. John Jay, of course we know who he was. John Jay. The 3 guys had to go on a tour to try to tell people, look, you got to have a federal government. A confederation is weak, because if all of a sudden we get attacked and 3, a bunch of colonies say, well, we don't go. Now they're going to arguing about, no, you need to have, it's like having a corporation with no president. It's just, a ship without a captain. So they argued for a strong federal, republic. And that won in the end. Supposedly people said in 1861 we wanted to open that debate again. No, that debate was solved in 1785, 1787, when they, drew up the Constitution and signed it and all. So, and it was a good document as much as we could, but needed editing down in order, we shall say. So, but anyways, I, studied up on Abraham Baldwin about his, history and everything, and I wasn't expecting, because nothing about his military service at all. And if you watch my channel, I'm always looking for the military markers they installed in the 1800s after the civil insurrection up to the Spanish-American War. And then of course they continued to use them, but they started replacing the wood markers. So, and I saw this, and this is a rare one. The second one I found. Well, there was another video on this. Hard to find these. Only on my channel. There's 2 of them right here in the cemetery. Revolutionary War. And but he was a non-combatant. That's why I couldn't really find much. But he was a chaplain in the 2nd Connecticut Brigade Revolutionary War. I got a New Jersey regiment soldier to the left of me, section K. There he is, Abraham Baldwin, 2nd Connecticut Brigade, chaplain in the Revolutionary War. So he was there at the beginning. He helped, support the troops during the American Revolutionary War. He helped draft the Constitution. He was there to sign it. And like I said, he was a big proponent for taxes going to pay not just for sidewalks, but public education, because that's going to be our leaders 20, 30, 40 years down the road. So the better we educate our kids, the better government we have. And so it's a good investment. So let's extend tuition-free education beyond 12th grade and start paying for some state college, but not community college. Good. And then so next to it, I thought it was completely unrelated. I saw a nice War of 1812 medallion next to it, and I thought, this is not related. But I started reading about it, and anyways, this guy was a Colonel George Bomford, and I think it says U.S. Ordnance Corps, and died in 1848, age 66 years or something. So he fought because remember, it was the same people in the War of 1812. The British retried to take the colonies. About 20, 30 years down the road, they tried to, restart the Revolutionary War. So, so we have Abraham Baldwin being a chaplain in the Revolutionary War to a colonel in the War of 1812 fighting the British again, which we have a lot of War 1812 because some of the battles they came in through Maryland up here and marched in D.C. through here. So there's a lot of War 1812 veterans in this area and in this cemetery. And he's buried up with Claire, his wife. And then I found the connection is they said their son. I started reading down their son is Henry Baldwin Bomford. He died when he was only 21. So Henry Baldwin. So remember the family name Baldwin, and that's his sister Ruth. So let's see if he could have been his if he was in 1812, he was probably he was a colonel, so he had to be probably maybe 30 years old. So he was born in the 1700s, so it was probably very well could be his brother right here. I'm going to have to do more research, but this could be Abraham Baldwin's brother. So there's a family connection, spanning the thing. Could not his son. They would mark his son. But I'll do more of a video on it. And sorry about the construction noise, but this is pretty cool. You can see I can barely read it, but there's the sculpture's signature carved into it. Like I said, this was put here in the mid 1850s. So you can see how old this is. Pretty old, over 100 years old, sitting here. So that's why it's hard to read and everything. So that's pretty cool. We got a founding father and his brother or some kind of relative right next to him who fought in the Revolutionary War Part 2. And on both sides, peaceful, well, most of the time peaceful, rocky and beautiful cemetery.